Hello and welcome to the third part of this Add Atmospheric Motion to a Landscape tutorial. Now that we've blurred out the areas that we want to include the movement in, what we need to do now is just reduce the opacity of each of those layers so we've got a more realistic effect. So click onto Motion Layer 1 and just reduce its opacity down to about 30%. Click on Motion Layer 2 and again we'll reduce that to about 30%, and now we can just see that movement in the grass, but the static areas are really drawing out. If you find that the effect has been reduced a little bit too far, then we can always increase the opacity a little bit just to really start to bring out the movement. So we can see there I've increased that to about 50% on Motion Layer 2, and we've got the nice movement going on in the grass areas in the foreground. So we've done that, we've now created our motion within the picture, and what we want to do is just to flatten those layers down. So if I click on Motion Layer 1, click on our background layer, and then go Control E, and that will flatten those 4 layers down into one. So we can now flip between our original image and our motion image, and we can see how that's applied that motion to the grass areas and around the trees there. Now that we've done that, we want to convert the image to mono, or this layer to mono. So if we go up to Enhance and Convert to Black and White, what it'll do, instantly apply a black and white filter to the picture. Now I've had a bit of an experiment, and looking at the colour within the picture, I found that if we increase the red to about 120, which will generally increase the contrast, reduce the green to about 50% and the blue, we've got quite a nice contrasty image which really draws out the grass, darkens down the sky, and we've got a nice atmospheric black and white. Now when you're using the Convert to Black and White, you've got a series of presets over on the left hand side, and you've also got the adjustment intensity over on the right hand side, and we're actually going to use these sliders rather than the presets to create our black and white image. So annoyingly, it doesn't actually show you the percentage on the sliders, but if you just hover over the slider itself, after a few seconds it'll come up with the numerical amount of the adjustment. So we can take that to about 120, we want to take the green to about 50, blue to minus 60. I'm just going to increase the contrast a little bit as well. So it takes a little while just for it to show you the actual numerics of your adjustment, but you can see the effect that that's had. We've now got quite a nice lot of detail in the sky there. We've got quite a nice light grass area, and we've also got the water showing through and showing a lot of detail in the foreground. So once we've done that, we can just click OK and we can apply that to our landscape. Now the final thing I want to do is just to basically apply a levels adjustment layer just to clip into the shadows and the highlights, and just to adjust the midtones, and that'll just help improve the overall contrast of the picture. So if we go down to our layers palette again, click on the adjustment layers and select levels, and I'm going to change the shadows to 22, the midtones down to 0.84, and I'm going to leave our highlights at 255. If I start to decrease those by sliding that down, you'll suddenly see it starting to burn out a little bit in the clouds and also in some of the grass areas there. So we'll just click OK, and we've now got a nice contrasty landscape. It really shows the atmosphere of the scene. Once we've done that, if we go Control E, we can just flatten the levels adjustment layer onto our black and white landscape, and as a final tweak, what we can do is we can use dodge and burn just to bring out some of the highlights and darken down some of the shadows, so making things a little bit more atmospheric and contrasty. So if you go down to your dodge and burn tools in your tool palette, we're going to start with a bit of dodging. Go up to our dodging options at the top of the screen, and we're going to pick highlights. Make sure that our exposure's at about 5%, And then what we can do is just very carefully just drag over some of the areas we want to increase the highlights in. And that basically just draws out a bit of detail and gives the image just a little bit more interest. And also, if we use that quite selectively on the water areas, we can really draw out the water and make a little bit more of a feature of it within the image itself. Once done the dodging, we can go to burn, make sure that we've got our range at shadows, our exposure at 5% again, and we're going to just burn in some of the areas, and that will draw out some of the detail in the grass as well. Also on the water, we're going to try and get that sort of mirror-like effect, and we can start to really sort of see the difference that's going on there. Okay, so after a little bit of work, you should be able to get quite a nice looking image. And what we've managed to do there is introduce movement into an otherwise static shot, really showing the atmosphere of the scene.